What's the vibes, tribe? Welcome back to another Dream Small Business Framework. Today's topic of discussion is on offers, right? We've been definitely focusing a lot on content. This is a part of it, but as a part of our framework, the very first corner that we start with is an offer, right? Why? Because if we don't have an offer to sell, then we don't have a business. Businesses require transactions and sales. And so today, we're actually going to come back to focusing on offers and what makes you a successful entrepreneur when it comes to making an offer. Okay. As a business owner, y'all, your success isn't just about what you sell, it's actually about the problems you solve. And we've talked about this before, but today we're going to dive deeper on how we can actually solve people's problems through our offers. Okay. So when we focus on solving real needs for people, we naturally attract loyal customers, we build trust, and we create offers that truly matter. So, whether you have an offer right now or not, either way, it's perfectly fine. Well, if you don't have an offer, you need to create one. And then this conversation is actually perfect because with the narratives that you'll hear today around what makes a really good offer for our consumers, you'll get to then create a solid offer. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and change my background because that's for my other organization. Boom. All right, so y'all, let's dive deep. Okay, I'm actually going to reveal three major gems that can help you to create a better offer or your first offer today. Okay, so let's talk to my entrepreneurs who actually does have an offer. Maybe you have a product that you can offer or you have a service that you can offer, right? Maybe you're a coach, consultant, an educator, an instructor of some kind, or maybe you create and produce different merchandise, right? T-shirts, mugs, bags, etc. Maybe you crochet, maybe you knit, maybe you sew. In any case, we want to ensure that we're not creating offers just because we like them. That is not going to scale our business, and it's certainly not going to sustain our business. What helps to sustain our business is ensure that we are solving real world problems for people. Now, problems can be subjective, is neither here or there. Like if I run out of body soap today, that's a problem, right? Especially if I wanted to take a shower. That's a problem. And so it's not about how big the problem is or how small it is, it's a need. Someone experiences lack, therefore, that creates a need. And we want to be able to insert our offer into that need. We want to be able to solve their problems. Okay. So, some really great, powerful questions to begin to ask yourself is, what's frustrating my audience right now? And what's up? Thumbs up. And by the way, think about your audience, y'all. Your audience consists of leads, right? So there's cold and warm leads, either strangers or people that at least have started to watch your content. Maybe they know about your offer. These are friends and family members, right? Sorry, those are both cold and warm leads. Yeah. And then we have customers. Maybe these are people that have already made a purchase from us before. And then we have our audience who actually watches our content, or maybe they attend some of our workshops, our sessions, etc., etc. Okay. But do you know what's frustrating them? Because remember, we're talking about problems today. So, usually with a problem, there's some type of frustration. Okay. There's some type of frustration that comes with it, or at least there is an awareness that there is a problem. Okay. One of the two. But we really want to think about, what is it costing them to not have the solution? right? Because that is what exacerbates a problem, is not being able to solve it. So I mentioned body soap earlier, and if that was a problem for me, I can obviously just run outside and go get some body soap, right? But what about if it was 2 a.m. and all the stores were closed? Or what if I was, God forbid, if I was sick at home and I couldn't go outside, I didn't have the energy. Oh, bendito. Right? So we want to think about what the cost is of this problem and the separation from our lead or our customer being able to solve it. Because again, that's where we get to start to either craft or insert our offer. Okay. And then a bigger problem, which requires a bigger solution, and so that could be really good for you, your team, and your business, is, does the solution even exist yet? Because we all know the greatest creation, the greatest ideas, right, are brand new ones, right? They're the ones to hit the market first. It's the one to disrupt everything that we know for the new thing. The same way iPhone, iPods, and all of Apple's devices has done, right? For the world of technology. So, bigger the problem, the bigger the solution, and the bigger the money. Even though that's not our area of focus, we are actually listening deeply to our leads and customers' problems so that we could uncover the hidden opportunities, and then we can actually design offers to hit the mark. Okay. So notice that I said design. So again, for my entrepreneurs who already has an offer, and maybe you're not selling as many items or as many services as you would like, right? We want to scale our business. We want our business to grow. We want our business to be able to work for us, right? So, this means that we need to not just create offers that we want and that we like. It means that we are also looking for the opportunity to design new offers. May it be for one person, or maybe you're selling to many. And so we're going to jump right into the three major gems that you need in order to be a wildly successful entrepreneur while solving the biggest problems for people in the moment. Okay. Now, I'll be honest, many of these things, they're not rocket science. You probably know this or have heard it before, but are you doing it, right? So I want you to so as I go through each bullet point, I want you to think about how you're actually implementing this in your business currently, because if you are not, that might be the missing piece to you being able to scale your business to the next level. All right. So let's say that you are in front of a person, you're talking, and communication is a two-way street, right? So usually when one person is talking, the other person is listening. Now, as an entrepreneur, I'm going to let you know right now that at least 90% of the time, you should be the one listening. And when you are talking, you're asking the right questions, and you're also being, as much as possible, or becoming, if you're not already, a really good storyteller. So there's a theory about problems for people, and it's that problems are typically painful, not physically and not literally all the time, but it is a pain, right? Problems can cause a lot of stress, pain, may it be physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, right? It could cause stress. So, as a part of our jobs, which is to help our customers and our leads to make a decision, we want to do something that agitates that pain a little bit more. Because what happens is that they're more willing to make a decision in a moment, aside from either continuing on with moving forward and making progress, or if they have any resistance or hesitation towards the thing, or if they want to go and see if they can figure it out from somewhere else or pay a different price for it. We want our leads and our consumers to be able to make a decision in the moment. Okay? So the very first thing that we want to do is listen actively. So how is your active listening skills right now? Be honest. Do you find yourself talking just as much as the person in front of you? Especially if you've already recognized that they're talking about a problem, which most people do. Like a majority of the time, it doesn't matter whether this is a lead, someone that's directly in your business, like maybe you're on a call with someone. This is even your friends and your family, y'all, right? So the closest people to us. They're talking about a problem, or at some point, they'll mention a problem. And we want to begin to train our ears to perk up once we hear that someone is in distress, once they're able to articulate a problem, and especially when they do not currently have a solution. So, our active listening skills is one skill set that we must continue to upskill. We must continue to work on our active listening skills so that we become hyper aware of when someone has a problem that we could potentially solve. So, it's important that we listen and then we wait. We don't just want to respond immediately after listening. We want to really understand our leads and our customers' problems. So it's important that we're paying attention to words, that we're paying attention to emotions, that we're paying attention to body language, that we're paying attention to patterns in what a person is sharing. And a lot of the time, you'll even hear them mention the problem more than once, just in case you feel like, well, they might have mentioned it, but maybe I missed it. Like, is it actually a problem? Especially if it doesn't have the other nuances like emotions and body language and such. A lot of the times you'll find that people are repeating themselves. And again, one thing that I see that happens a lot too is that the body language would change when people are talking about their problems, right? Sometimes I run into people, I'm like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, it's going pretty good. And they mean that genuinely. And then I'm like, well, how's it going with the job that you applied for? You see, the shoulders will shrink, the smile, or even if it was a neutral expression, it also sinks as well. The eyes deviate. Maybe their chest swells and it gets a little big, especially if people are holding back. We want to pay attention to these things. Like people are answering our questions in the moment even without words sometimes. Okay. And then other times you'll find that they'll say it multiple times. So if you miss it, just listen in again, right? Make sure that you're actively listening, not just listening to respond. Okay. So that's number one. You need to work on your active listening skills, and you want to minimize how much you are actually talking aside from when you are responding. Okay. Listening is the most important part of communication as an entrepreneur. Next, so we talked about not just responding. However, when we do decide to respond, what kind of response are we giving? Number two, ask questions. And not just any questions, ask insightful questions. Like we want to get really curious about why this is a pain point for someone or why this is a problem. Okay. So we want to ask questions and open-ended questions. Insightful questions are open-ended. That means that it starts with a why, a what, a how, a when, a where, a who. Okay. Ask why. Ask what if. Find ways to dig deeper below the surface of what someone's telling you, right? So even sometimes in when you ask someone how they're doing and they're like, I'm fine. That fine hit that low. Okay. That fine hit that low tone. So already that's an indication that they're not really fine. They're just using words, right? Yeah. So what has been going on for you lately? Or what's been on your mind, right? Asking an open ended question allows them to share more. And through them sharing more, you'll uncover the problem. Okay. So we want to dig below the surface of what they're giving us initially. Sometimes you don't have to do that. Sometimes people will tell you straight up what's going on. Okay. And then other times they don't. So it really depends on the type of person and then also the amount of trust that that person has with you. But nonetheless, the best insights often hide behind what's unsaid. So if you're in a space where you can continue to ask open-ended questions, right? So we ask one open-ended question, what's on your mind? And this person shares, then you go to another open-ended question. Yeah, well, what would be the solution for that? Yo, y'all can ask straight up. We can ask straight up. What would be the solution for that? And we can allow them to tell us what they think the solution is. This helps us to understand what's in our arsenal and toolbox that might be able to help them, or it lets us know how we can design a new offer to help them. Okay. So we want to make sure that we're uncovering as much as possible about our lead by just asking insightful questions, open ended who, what, where, when, why, and how. Okay. And the other part of that is just making sure that you're staying observant, right? Like while people are responding after the open ended question, we need to stay observant. Watch for the trends, watch for the behavior and the kind of feedback that they're giving you, because all of these things, again, is going to help you to design and craft the perfect offer that they can't say no to, even if it's just for them. But typically, you'll find that when you create one offer, you have four, and then you're able to sell to people who either have the same issue or a similar issue. Okay. So sometimes as well, like the biggest opportunities is actually not what people say they need. So I actually really like the question, like, what's the solution to that? I really enjoy that question because, again, you'll get to find out what they believe the solution is. If they don't know, they don't know, and that's fine. But you get to hear what they think it is. And this is really important, y'all, because a lot of the times, what people think the solution is to their problem isn't actually what they need. And when I learned this, like when I heard this from my virtual mentor, I was like, what you mean? It didn't click for me. Mm. But I have an example. You know that I'm a fitness instructor, a fitness coach, a personal trainer, health and wellness coaching consultant, all of those hats, right? So there is a member inside of my gym who had an unfortunate accident. She's okay, but she had to have two different types of surgery. One was on her knee, one was on her shoulder. And her knee's great, which is awesome because now she can continue to work out on lower body with no issues. But she has problems with gaining muscle and pain in her upper body because of the shoulder injury she had years back. And she's so determined that she tries to push through the pain, doing exercises that actually induce more pain. And her doctor's solution was to not do that, was to go lighter in weight and to work her way up. And not to say that the doctor's incorrect because they're not, right? That's definitely one option and one route. However, what I have found working with clients who either come in with injuries or they get injured at some point, um, along the journey of us working together, not necessarily with me because of what I'm having them do, um, but just generally. Um, I find people injure themselves just from taking off their shirt the wrong way. Okay. Now, I know quite a bit about anatomy because I had to become certified as a personal trainer, right? And as a group fitness instructor. So, my studies have helped me with that. And also, I continuously learn new things. And one thing that I know of that helps a lot in solving shoulder pain is using resistance, right? So, the doctor actually did give her a solution that included resistance. Said use 5 pound dumbbells, a pair of 5 pound dumbbells, right? And then she could do her exercises. Now, the thing is that she can't do that for a long time and grow muscle mass to the point where she wants to and she's determined to. She says all the time, I want nice arms. I want your arms. When she looks at my arms, she's always giving me compliments. And then she's even a little sad about it because she sees that she can't get there. Right. So, again, we're listening, we're observing, and then we're getting more curious. Right. So, your doctor told you to use a pair of 5 pound weights, but that's not going to get you to where you want to be. Right. Like, ultimately, that's a long journey. Yeah, it is. And guess what people don't like? Long journeys to their solution. If we could figure it out like this, that's much better. Think about a toothache. You don't want to take a long journey with a toothache. If you have a toothache and you need to go into an office for help with a professional, you want that professional can solve it just like that. You don't want to have to go home and then come back and go home and come back and go home and come back to solve this toothache, right? We're hoping to solve problems as fast as possible all the time. Okay. So it was the same thing for this member. Now, check this out. Okay. And how I was able to provide her another solution that might be more helpful than the first solution that she received from her doctor. Now, I know another kind of resistance that is usually helpful for injuries. You may or may not know this too, depending on if you've been injured before or if you're an OT, right? Occupational therapist, excuse me, or if you work in physical therapy, right? So another type of resistance training is with resistance bands. Typically, this is much safer for people with previous injuries to use, and it's typically a part of the therapeutic process. Is a very specific reason why the resistance bands have been created. It usually helps and heals injuries. Okay. So, another thing that I had a chance to explore for myself using resistance bands is massive muscle growth. I've had a lot of success using resistance bands. Resistance bands are not that much different than what dumbbells or kettlebells can do. Dumbbells and kettlebells is not going to work for my friend at the gym who has an injury and her doctor doesn't want her to go above 10-pound weights, 5 in each hand. But she can start with 5 pounds of resistance and work her way up, not only building muscle growth, but also healing her injury. And so this was the conversation that we had, right? And now here's the next thing. That was free value that I threw at her. Guess what's going to happen next? When I see her next time, I'm going to ask her about it if she started it yet. More than likely, she's going to say no because she already revealed to me that she has not done that type of training before outside of physical therapy. And then I'm going to get to show her one or two exercises that she can continue to do that's going to do two things: grow muscle mass so that she can ultimately receive the sexy, lean, fit arms that she wants, while also reducing or potentially eliminating the muscle pain that she's experiencing in her neck. Okay, y'all. So, are you picking up what I'm putting down? This is listening and solving in the moment. Now, how is this helpful for me? Because I'm talking about giving away free value, right? So, of course, I offer services and in training. However, not in that environment and not in that way and not what she needs. So, what would be my offer to her that would actually not just solve her problem, but it'll also reward me monetarily? Now that I'm thinking about it, I need to check into this. I need to see, excuse me, how I can become an affiliate with one of the brands that has helped me to grow muscle mass and to reduce shoulder pain and injury. I had a pinched nerve before, and that has helped me tremendously. Okay? So, I can become an affiliate with an organization or company that sells product that solves her problem, right? Or I can create something for her and give it directly to her. It doesn't mean that I have to create resistance bands or some sort of other product or mechanism specific to that. But can I actually produce a training plan for her of what to do with the resistance bands if she doesn't know? Yes. Okay. Can I charge for that? Yes. That's an offer. How does it sound if I actually build you a training plan to use the resistance band and we see how it works from there? Right? This is my cost for building the plan. If you want additional assistance after that, you can either get, I can have a 100% money back guarantee, especially if I'm very confident that this is going to solve her problems. I could give her a discount on her next purchase. I could give her the next level, the next step free of value, right? I could build out a nutrition plan for her. There's so many things. I could stack that offer, right? There's so many things that can happen from this one verbal transaction and conversation that can lead to the ultimate thing that she wants, which is her problem solved. She wants sexy arms. We're going to get her some sexy arms, y'all. Okay? So let's take a moment here before we finish off with that third point. Like, what do you think about that? And especially in terms of how you're having conversations with people. Are you just telling people what you do and what you offer? Or are you asking questions and listening to their response and then seeing how you can fit into their narrative? This is the difference between what makes a entrepreneur who just offers a bunch of things and doesn't make any sales to a salesperson and a good salesperson. We want to become good salespeople, and that's not the way that we've learned it typically, right? Like if you've ever worked in retail, you learned how to sell, or if you've never sold anything before and it feels cringy to even think about like me selling something, I can't talk anybody into buying anything. You're not talking anybody into buying anything. You're solving their problem, and there's a major difference. Okay? You're letting them know that there is a solution and that you can get it to them. And then you give them the process once they agree. Okay. So it's super duper important that we are being very mindful of listening actively, asking the right questions, being observant. And then, even if we don't have the offer in that very moment, let them know that you do, especially if you can create the offer. If you can produce the solution, but you don't have it yet, just give them a timeline and create the thing and give it to them. Okay. It's really important that we're listening, asking the right questions, being the observer and solving people's problems. Okay. And here's the last thing, which I touched on briefly already, but we're going to dive in deep to this. Like, we want to empathize deeply. So maybe you don't know your lead or your customer's experience, but how can you show them that you understand what they putting down, right? Can you imagine what it I can imagine what it'd be like to be in an unfortunate accident. I'm not going to, but I'm just saying. I can imagine what it'll be like to be in an unfortunate accident, have to stop working out for a while or teaching, being in a lot of pain and long-term pain, right? Imagine having an accident years ago and you're still in pain for years now and unable to perform to the level that you desire. Now, even without that very particular circumstance, we've all been there in some way. We've all been in a space where we had pain, struggle, stress, fear, loss of hope. Okay. We want to put ourselves in our audience's shoes. So, with their particular problem, how would it make you feel if that was you? Share that empathy with them and let it guide your solutions. Okay. Let it guide your solutions. So, feel their pain, their struggle, and their stress, right? Reiterate words that they've already used, right? Like I'm just I'm just so sad that I can't get to my goal because of this thing. I know what that feels like to be sad because I can't achieve a thing. Yeah, we want to empathize as much as possible. So repeat words that they've used to validate them and their feelings. Okay, you use body language as well, right? That's one for me. I make sounds. That's my human design. So when I'm whatever I'm feeling, you'll hear it through a hum. But for you, it might be a head shake as well as some verbal communication that says, I understand that, right? I haven't experienced that before, but I can imagine what that feels like. You need to empathize with them. This also helps to build trust so that they feel good saying yes to your offer. Okay. So, y'all, to be honest, that's it. Like, that's the three major gems that you need if you want to build and scale a dream business. We need to become obsessed with solving people's problems, and when you do that, people will happily pay you, right? Just like we do for that toothache. Like, now it's gonna be a lot of money, but let me tell you something. When you absolutely need something or when you're in pain, you're willing to do the next thing that's going to eliminate that. Okay. So people are willing to happily pay you, not just for your product and services either, but for the relief, for the results, for the solution that you're bringing to their lives that they've been looking for, that they've been waiting for you to create, or for you to show up on their path and say, yo, I got you. Here you go. Right? So, those three things that we need to become a better problem solver so that we're a super wildly successful entrepreneur whose business can't help but scale is to one, again, listen actively and stay observant. Listen actively and stay observant of your clients' trends, their behaviors, their feedback from their words. Make sure you're listening at least 90% of the time, and that when you're responding, you're asking more questions, specifically open ended. Nothing wrong with close ended, but a majority should be open ended if you need to design the offer that you believe is the solution to their problems. So if you don't already have that, you got to ask a lot of questions. Okay. Because again, the last thing we want to do is invest in creating things that people don't even want. So we want to take the right steps. 2, ask insightful questions. Who, what, where, why, how. Okay? We want to ask open-ended questions so that people can talk to us about what their problems are and help us to uncover the solution. Okay? And then finally, we want to empathize. We want to empathize deep. Okay? Deep with our audience. We want to feel their pain in the moment, but know that we also have the solution. So we want to show them that we understand, and then we want to provide them with a solution. Okay? Now, here's one extra bonus tip. If you are not a good storyteller, which is something that I see that keeps coming up now, so that is my calling to make sure that I am learning and applying as soon as possible, is becoming a good storyteller. So think about it. If you're empathizing deeply, you might spend some time responding to your leader, your customer, about a similar situation that you've experienced, your family's experienced, your friends have experienced, something that you saw on the news or something that you see in the street or heard on the radio or wherever. But we want to ensure that we know how to tell a good story. Stories is what also helps people to open up. When you hear a good story, think about the last book you read or the last story you heard. You begin to open up. Okay? And that's exactly what we want our leads and our customers to receive from us, is this openness. And then that's also what we want to receive from them. So listen to their stories, tell a story. But then in that story, make sure you wrap it up with a solution, and also keep it brief, because ain't nobody trying to listen to what you got going on for that long. Because we're all trying to solve our own problems, right? Just saying. All right, y'all. That is literally, let me make sure I check my notes here. That's literally all I have. Successful entrepreneurs, they're problem solvers, right? We are problem solvers first. Okay, we're problem solvers first. Sales comes second. Sales comes second, right? So an offer that, um, every offer that we make should be from the vantage point of solving a problem. And then we make a sale. And that's it. That's how it goes every single time. All right, tribe? So this is a short one today. I'm excited. Yay. So do me a favor. Go ahead. This is not really a favor, but if you appreciated this content, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and then also leave a comment. Let me know what gem you took away today, one that you might have known, or maybe that's new, one that you look forward to applying in your business. Okay. And then, more importantly, I need you to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because that is the way that you're going to be notified that I'm live. Okay. The best way to join me is actually through live. Otherwise, you can go back and hit that replay button. That's perfectly fine as well. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you know when I drop the next content. I'll see you back here next week, Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another Dream Small Business Framework. Okay. I appreciate y'all, and I love y'all. Have a good one.